Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Rami. I'm the CEO of OnceHub. I hope that you are all well and safe, and I'm really glad to see you on this webinar today. With the coronavirus, remote working has become a hot topic. The internet is now full of articles and blog posts that attempt to give various types of advice on working from home. But in this webinar, we're going to do something different. We've always been a remote first company. And today I'm going to share with you our story from the early days until today. It's been a long journey and not a simple one. I'm going to share with you the key learnings. And in my opinion, working from home is more difficult than working in an office. So we've learned some lessons along the way, and some have been learned with a lot of effort and with trial and error. And I'll do my best to share with you today. I hope they'll be useful. We will also have an extensive Q&A session. Some people have already submitted questions, and I'm going to go through these and answer them. There will also be an opportunity for you to submit additional questions, and I'm not going to limit it by time, so we'll stay for as long as there are questions. One more thing that I'm going to do is show you how you are going to be able to schedule with me one-on-one assistance sessions. I'm going to be making myself available privately if you want to discuss with me anything related to working from home and how it relates to your business or affects your business. I'll tell you how to do so. Okay, so let's get started with our virtual story. So in this graph, you can see the timeline, and here you can see the cumulative adoption for online scheduling. And Schedule Once was introduced to market in 2011. We actually started the company in mid-2006. So it took us some time to get the product out into the market. But to our defense, I can say that it was only two of us. So Gilad, my brother and co-founder, and myself. And we worked alone, just the two of us, for 7 years. We only hired our first employee in 2013. And the reason we worked just the two of us for so long was because you can see the adoption curve here. Scheduling wasn't really adopted on a mass scale. It wasn't socially acceptable to send a link to someone and ask them to schedule. They would feel like it's not respectful. You're sending them to a website instead of speaking with them. So there wasn't too much activity, and other competitors that tried to do too much too soon didn't make it because they just couldn't bring the results. Luckily for us, we hang on, and in 2013, the market started to pick up. And today we're here with more than 150 employees. So this journey is probably the more interesting part, where we grew along with the market and added employees in 7 countries on all continents. So that's the story that I'm going to tell you now. So when we had to hire the first employee, we had to make a decision. We were working from home, of course. I mean, it's just the two of us. We trust each other. There is no issue at all. So we worked from home. And when we hired the first employee, we had to make a decision. Is this employee also going to work from home, or are we going to an office? We didn't have a cash flow problem. By the time we hired the first employee, we had enough cash both for ourselves and both for the employee. We could easily afford an office. But we were already used to the efficiency of working from home. There was no need for a commute. And you are always just a few steps away from your desk. It is very efficient. We also needed to support the US market, and I'm based in Israel now. And when we started also, we were both in Israel. And in order to support the US market, we need to work in the night. So a lot of our work was done at night, and going to the office at night is not such a convenient thing to do. So that was another factor. The other one, a third one, was that from the beginning we wanted to build this company as an international company, and we wanted to have employees in multiple jurisdictions. And having employees in multiple jurisdictions that also work from home is much more efficient than starting to open offices. So that was a factor. And lastly, we didn't have any investors that can tell us you need to be in an office, you need to be a normal company. We were the only company when we started. There was no other company, at least in Israel, that was working from home. So it wasn't, we were a different animal, but we were able to think independently and originally. And that's what we did. We decided that we were going to build a company as a virtual company. And in the early days, we worked from the morning until around 4 p.m. We would take a break, family, kids, come back again at night for customer-facing work. We also worked in shifts, so there was a customer success team. They were all based in Israel, and we had to cover the entire set of US working hours. So people were working the entire night. We had shifts, and we had people working all night. It was actually working well. Some people really like to work from, let's say, 10 p.m. until 4 a.m. Some people liked it, or 8 a.m. So we were lucky to find some good people that actually like to work at night. Back then we used Skype for communication. We didn't use video. It wasn't working that well, so it was only VoIP. And we were a small team, about 10, 12 people. We used to meet from time to time, every few months. We met for a full day, had a good lunch and discussion, and sometimes we just went for dinner. So this is how it happened in the early day. I'm talking about 2013, 2014. That's these times. Now we had to start expanding, and we started to realize that it is not so simple to hire a remote team. We were very lucky at the beginning. So the core team that we had it was about 10 to 12 people. So we were really lucky. There were no mishires, and all these people that we hired initially were really, really strong, really dedicated. I mean, it was a super team. I can only attribute it to luck. But when we started to expand, it was becoming really, really difficult because candidates were looking at us as not a serious company. Many candidates think that working from home is a lifestyle job. They are not realizing that working from home is actually more difficult than working in an office. It's more intense. But some thought they were coming into a lifestyle job. Some people think they can work from everywhere. Like if they feel like it, they can go downstairs, go into a coffee shop and work in a coffee shop. But maybe you read about it in blogs in the internet, but it doesn't work like this with OnceHub. And yeah, people thought they can also work whenever they want. So we had to do a lot of explanations. And we found that even if people say, yes, everything is okay, yes, 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 but in many cases they start and they see how it is like, then it is not so okay, and we had a lot of hiring failures. We also found out that doing business is much harder when you're a remote company. The supplier community doesn't recognize a remote company. All the financial institutions, whether it's banks and payment processors, if you don't have a physical address and an office, some of them want to go see the office. If you don't have it, you don't exist from their perspective. They don't have the protocol even to deal with you. So that posed some challenges. And yes, some think that we're not a serious company, maybe cannot be trusted, maybe don't have proper security, although we have very good security, more than companies that have an office potentially, but we had to battle all these issues. Like I was starting to say before, we had our share of hiring and retention failures, and I want to group them into bucket. So the first one is cultural issues. So we started to hire in different jurisdictions. And when you are in a physical office, you hire people that are like you. You hire people from your own country, you hire people from your own city. And typically other employees refer their friends, so it's also people with the same mindset. And the cultural fit is pretty good from the beginning. But when you hire someone in a completely different country with a completely different culture, then the cultural issues are much more difficult to bridge, and there is a lot of potential for a misunderstanding just in the way that different national cultures can interpret different things. So we had issues with that. We also had performance issues. In some cases, candidates start and the performance is not good. It takes time. It takes more time to understand that there is a performance problem, that the new hire is not delivering. Sometimes it's our fault. Sometimes it's the new hire's fault. But it takes longer to detect these issues. While if you're in the office and you have close supervision, you can detect them faster. There were also social issues. People that start working from home and everything is fine and they're happy. I had great employees that came to me one day and said, I cannot work from home anymore. I'm fed up. I have to go into an office and want to quit on the spot. It drives them nuts. They can't continue anymore. And we lost some good employees because of this. So this also happened. And the biggest thing of all is trust. Trust is the most fundamental thing that you need to get right. If you don't have trust, you cannot work from home. I mean, I can also say that it will not be good to work from an office without trust, but especially in working from home. So let's talk about it a bit more. When you have someone in the office, you can see them and you can read their body language, and you have a lot of interaction with them that is outside the strict working tasks that they are doing. So you can take them to lunch. There are a lot of opportunities to establish trust. When it's remote, the way to establish trust is through the work and through delivery. And if there is no trust, then you're going downhill, and it's going to blow up, and it blows up pretty fast. And the duty of establishing trust is on you, the manager, the employer. You need to make the first move. If you're not making the first move and not trusting, then it's not going to work out. And we had a lot of failures due to our suspicions. And sometimes these suspicions were not even true, but just bringing a new team member on board, there is a lot of fear. There is fear on both sides. There is fear on the side of the new hire, and there is also fear in the company. Is this a good hire? Is it going to work out? And this fear is a catalyst for mistrust. So we learned that we need to trust, and we need to make the first move, and we need to trust, and we need to make a leap of faith and hope that it will work out. Of course, we also need to hire the right profile. So this is where the experience comes in. And also there needs to be a fit. Of course, the candidate needs to want to work from home. But it's very clear now, looking back at all the mistakes and all the failures that we have had, that trust is the number one thing. If there is one thing for you to take away from this presentation, you need to have trust with the employee. If you don't have trust, if you're coming into this with lack of trust, there's a very good chance it's going to blow up. So over time, we became better at it. The main thing is we started to have a better understanding of the right profile. So for example, someone that lives in a rural area, remote, they're going to be much more appreciative that they have an opportunity to work from home. They don't need to have a 2 or 3 hour commute sometimes to a place where they can work. So that's already a good start. People with families, with kids, also good. People can take a break, like finish in the afternoon, take a break, come back at night. We started to understand what is the best profile. Of course, there are also very good hires that we made outside the profile, but outside the profile, there's significant risk. For example, someone that is young, no family yet, and living in a city, the risk is much higher, and that's empirically we've seen that. We also learned that we need to provide opportunities for social connections. These can be social connections that are local in certain jurisdictions, or also social connections that people make online, just get together in a web conference, a video conference, and chat and talk to each other about various topics. And this is where the role of HR is really important to facilitate these social connections. And we also established semi-annual retreats. We've already had, I think, about 10 retreats. So every 6 months, we fly everyone to India. You could see this picture in the Taj Mahal from one of the retreats. And we spent 3 days in a nice hotel. And everyone gets to socialize together. And the last day is always a strategy day when we talk about higher level issues and people can present. So these retreats are a part of the culture and part of the company, and are going to stay forever. Like I don't see, they're instrumental, these retreats. Okay, so I told you a little bit about the history. Let's now see what we can learn from all this. So let's start with a blank slate. So you need to build an organization that will work remotely. So this is what we are going to discuss now in this slide. So the first thing you need to do is find the right profiles. And you need to understand for yourself what is the profile of an employee. And it's not that you will not hire anyone that doesn't fit this profile, but you need to be aware of the risks and see if these risks are still okay taking, or if it is still too risky to do. The second thing that I already talked about is to establish trust, and this is critical. That leap of faith has to be done by you at the beginning. And use video. I can't emphasize how important video is, because when you work remotely and you never see each other, then you're losing the connection. Video gets you so much closer to a face-to-face interaction, and missing the video opportunity is really bad. So if there is one thing that is easy to do, is to use video. And it's tiring to use video. I'm in video meetings all day, and it's looking at the screen, looking at the camera, and you know that you're being watched, but it's critical. You need to do it, and it will make a huge difference. It's much easier when you work with video. Not to neglect the social aspects. So, I mean, maybe some of you are great social animals, and you can facilitate the social aspects yourself. And some of you may be more like me, which, I'm not a great social animal, but I have a good social HR that facilitates this. So, but make sure you have someone in your organization that knows how to do this. Security. So working from home doesn't mean that you're not secure. You have to be secure. I mean, if you're in a business or whatever you do, SaaS or anything else, you need to be secure. The machines need to be secure. The communication, everything needs to be secure. When people come to work from home, they're not always expecting this security. And security as an overhead, and security requirements may be rigid. So it is very important to establish the security requirements from the beginning. We let employees read our security policies before they even sign the papers. They need to read the security and remote work policies, so they understand the environment, they know what they're getting into. Now, another thing is to use tools. I said that at the beginning we were only using Skype. Also back then there were better tools, but we were not using them. But yeah, today there are so many tools for remote working and video conferencing and collaboration. So yeah, these tools are good. Good to use these tools. Okay, now let's talk about the common case. This is probably the most important slide for most of you, because I'm going to talk about the transition from an office environment to working from home. So one thing that is important to understand if you're already working from home a few days a week, for example, 2 days you're working at home and 3 days you're working in an office. Many organizations have this flexible policy today. People think that, okay, I know what it is to work from home, I'm used to it, but it's not the same at all. Because if your anchor is the office and 3 days you're in the office and 1 or 2 days you're at home, okay, you're changing the environment, refreshing a bit and doing something a bit different. But what I tell candidates when I'm interviewing candidates, do you see yourself working from home every day for 5 years? So that's what I tell them, because I want to see how they react to this. Because what we do is work from home every day. You get up in the morning, you walk into your office. It's working from home. It's very different. It's very different. Yes, you need to have the social interactions, whether they're local or online, and there is the retreat. But other than that, you work from home every day for a long period. So it's a different thing, and it needs to be recognized. Don't think that if you work from home a few days a week, you know what working from home is. It's not the same. The second thing, and unfortunately, don't expect everyone to be able to transition to it successfully. It's different. And for some people, it may be very, very difficult. They're used to the social interaction and they depend on it. It's part of what drives them and enables them to work. And without it, you're just depriving them of food or water, and they're not going to be able to function well. It's really not for everyone. I think it's important to identify these people, to be very close to them. You can see if you can make it work for them, but also to recognize when it's not going to work. And that's where the frequent check-ins come in. I mean, it's not to check in that they're doing their job, but it's to check in how they're doing. How is the remote work working for them? Is it okay, or do they see issues? And that's part of being a leader, being a servant leader that works for the people. This is very important. You also need to recognize that if you're shifting from an office environment to a remote environment, the relationships and the power that different people have and their performance, all this is going to shift. Because some people have a lot of power from the way they interact and from various social aspects, and moving everything to work from home puts everyone on the same level. So everyone is maybe in the office, one guy has a big office and another guy sits in a cubicle, and that sets some hierarchy between them, and it's a status. I mean, there are all these visual and physical clues that tell us a lot. But now at home, it's all the same. You don't know if someone is sitting on a big chair or a small chair. It's all the same. Everyone is the same. And I mean, with us, for example, there is no headquarters and subsidiary. I mean, in many companies that have physical offices, there is the headquarters where the major decisions are made, and there are subsidiaries where the lower level decisions are made. With OnceHub, it's all flat. It doesn't matter in which country you are and where you are. Everyone has a say in the same way. There's no headquarters. I mean, it's all flat. So you will see a shift. Exactly how, I mean, it's yet to see. You need to monitor it, but you need to be prepared for it. Some people will maybe lose their power, and new people will gain power and influence. It will shift. And yes, this is related. The working dynamics will shift, and the office politics. So of course, we don't want office politics. It's a bad thing. Moving to work from home is actually a very good thing to reduce the amount of politics. It is very powerful in this, and that's one big benefit. Working from home puts the work in the center. And when you put the work in the center, politics gets a side seat. So that will be a good change. In terms of trust, I'm coming to trust again. It's really important to talk about it, and talk about it openly with the employees. Tell them that you trust them. Tell them that you're not going to micromanage them or supervise them very closely unless they come to you and they need help in certain things. But tell them that you trust them and give them a safe environment in which they can be their best. I mean, it's critical also for when you work in an office, but it's twice as critical when you work from home. And you need to manage by outcomes. Maybe in the office, you can manage by tasks and small steps, but when you're managing in an office, you need to shift towards managing by outcomes. Another important thing is to respect the non-working hours. People will want flexibility, and it's okay to give them flexibility, and it's good for everyone. But it is also important to not bother people unless it is absolutely necessary, because it's very easy to lose the borders between work and between home when you're working from home. And our role as leaders is not to cause the employees to lose these borders. The opposite, we want to help them establish these borders. If they want to break these borders, it's fine, but it is best that it is coming from them and not from you as the manager or the leader forcing them to do so. And yes, flexibility, I talked about flexibility. Wherever you can provide flexibility, sometimes we cannot provide flexibility because we have meetings where we need to collaborate and people need to come together across multiple time zones. So we do need people to work during certain hours, and we have these hours where we need everyone to work. But if there are additional hours where people can be flexible, yes, of course, then by all means, flexibility is great. And again, video. Yeah, I repeat video again because it's absolutely critical. Okay, so that was our story and our learnings. I also want to make myself available for one-on-one consultations. So I'm going to open up my calendar for up to 6 15-minute consultations per day, and I'm going to leave it open for many days. So I can be available to as many people as that need me. The best way to utilize me is to come to me with issues that are in the intersection between management and working from home. That's where I can add the most value. If it's just management, I'm sure there are many other smart people, and if it's also just work from home, and many employees can give feedback. I can add value in this intersection between the management and the work from home. That's where I can add the most value. And yes, bring the tough problem, no problem. And that's the URL, so you can write it down. It's go.oncehub.com/WFH, work from home. Okay, so let's go into the questions part. So some people have already submitted some questions. Let's go through them. Okay, so number one, what strategies have you used to onboard new staff members? How do you acclimate and assimilate them into the organization? So this is actually not much different than as if they were working in an office. Yes, a new employee comes on board. You want to tell them everything they need to know about the company. So instead of doing it face-to-face, it is done in a video meeting. HR can do it, the hiring manager can do it. Then they need to meet with the team members they'll be working with. So also that's done in video meetings. It is basically the same process. It is just done with the video. And this is why video is so great, because doing it without video, the candidate, the new hire loses a lot. We all lose a lot. The video makes it come to life. So that's critical. What does OnceHub do to keep its online workforce motivated, feel welcomed and connected with each other and recognized? I'm asking that from the perspective of an entire team who has not worked from home before. So here as well, the same principles that apply to any team apply also in a remote workforce, people, the organization needs to have a cause. I mean, why does it exist? It needs to have a cause. Employees need to know the cause. They need to know the why. They need to feel connected. They need to feel like they have a trusted environment in which they can be their best. They need to feel it's okay to make mistakes. Nothing is going to happen. They can make mistakes. They can experiment. They can dare to try new things. And this is important in a physical environment, and it is also important just as much in a virtual environment. The communication may be a bit more difficult. So this is why it's important to have frequent meetings and frequent communication with employees. For example, we have a quarterly meeting every quarter with the entire staff, and we talk about how we did in the quarter and the direction going forward. And besides these quarterly meetings, there are many meetings on a weekly basis, some with product managers, some with engineers, with sales. And there is also some informal communication. I can always just ping someone on a messenger and chat and discuss. So all this communication is really, really important. What is the top challenge for leaders managing remote employees for the first time? Yeah, so it's difficult. It's difficult because the number one challenge is to understand if there is a fit, so to understand the profile. And the second thing is the trust. So it's profile and trust. And I mean, trust is not related necessarily to working from home, but understanding the profile and understanding which questions to ask and to see how the candidate reacts and to make a determination if they will be successful in working from home. This is something that requires experience. I can say that I'm still very much involved in hiring, and I do a lot of screenings with candidates, and of course I talk to every employee before they join the company as part of the hiring process, because it does require experience. And it is something that takes time to learn. So if you're new to this, what I suggest is that you interview many candidates. Don't go for the first one or the second one, even if they look good. Just talk to candidates, and if you can afford to spend even 3 months interviewing people, you will see that through these interviews and asking the questions, you'll become more knowledgeable about which questions to ask, and you'll start to develop a good sense for what is a good fit and what is not, and you can compare between candidates. So if you don't have a lot of pressure to hire quickly, take the time, and it will result in better hiring decisions. What positive anecdotal feedback have employees shared regarding working from home? So it's typically, I mean, people that work from home in OnceHub, they like it, because if they don't like it, they typically churn pretty fast. I believe that today most of the people that work from home in OnceHub really like it. And for them, it's great that they don't need to commute, that they have more flexibility. It gives them the ability to balance work and life. So these are the kind of things that we hear. Our company has put many requisitions on hold and has closed a few. How would you recommend communicating with hiring managers internally to keep them engaged in the hiring process for pipelining future talent? So here, yes, you need to tell them the truth, tell them what is going on. My approach is when there is something bad in the business, I always bring it forward as soon as possible. So if our metrics are not looking good, or we have something bad happen, I immediately let everyone know about it. Because that shows people that, first of all, I'm transparent with them and I'm not hiding anything. And whenever there is something, they know it. So if I'm telling them bad news, I'll probably also tell them the good news. What happens in some organizations that it's very easy to tell the good news, and everyone runs to talk about the bad news. But the good news, sorry, but with the bad news, often people try to hold off. Maybe things will improve. But if they don't improve, they become even worse. And if you still think, okay, maybe they'll improve, but they still become worse. And then at the end, when you need to bring them forward, there is suddenly a big bad surprise. So this is not good. So my recommendation is always to say everything as it is. No need to hide anything. So just to tell them, I mean, this is the situation now with COVID-19. And this is, we need to put things on hold because of the uncertainty. And yeah, ask them what you want them to do, but transparency is the best approach. What are your feelings, recommendations on standing desks and standing desk chairs? I think they are good, but I think it's not the only option. For example, now I'm sitting. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing this webinar standing. So for some things that you do, it's better to sit. For some, it's better to stand. So I think you need both. What do you advise for screen break, cadence, duration? This is not my advice, but I've heard from ophthalmologists that it is best to take a break every 20 minutes. I've already been talking for more than 20 minutes, and I haven't taken a break. And it typically happens to me that I'm looking at the screen sometimes for an hour and a half. So I definitely don't follow this practice, but it is a best practice to stop every 20 minutes and look at something that's at least 20 meters away from you. So you're not focusing like just a few feet away all the time, but you're changing your sight to something far away. That's the best practice. I cannot say that I'm doing it. Okay, let's see what additional questions we have, and we have quite a lot. Okay, so there is one question here. Are you still hiring people? So yes, we were still hiring people. This hasn't changed our plan yet. So yes, we're still hiring people. What reporting mechanisms are your best practices to ensure employees are actually working? So none, no reporting mechanism. It's the trust. That's the thing. If you need to rely on reporting mechanism, you're not in a good place. You have to establish the trust. How do you avoid issues with having too many meetings? Sometimes when working remotely, people tend to overschedule meetings to compensate for the lack of in-person interactions. I don't think this is the reason that too many meetings are scheduled. We are very much aware of not having too many meetings. So if we see that this meeting is possibly redundant, we cancel it. So there is awareness to that, and we want to have a quiet time to do work. So I think it's awareness. I mean, people know that if a meeting is not useful for them, they can drop out. I drop out of meetings that are not useful for me. So it's about developing this awareness in the organization. How to encourage collaboration and social interaction for newly remote workers. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about before. There needs to be certain channels, if it's virtual, for people to socialize, whether there's a topic where people can get together to talk about their pets or about their hobbies. And as part of the onboarding, it's important to introduce the new hire to these options. And it is also important to have initial discussions with the new hire. So the people that are working with the new hire, the colleagues, the managers, they should all spend maybe half an hour and just get to know the candidate. In many cases, the way we hire, all the people that are going to be working with a new hire already are already part of the interview process. So when a new candidate starts, he already knows all the people that they will be working with, including me. They know me. They know how the company operates. So this also makes for a smoother landing. How do you define outcomes for your employees, and how often do you measure traction to these outcomes? So it depends. It depends on the subject. If it's product development, or if it's in sales, for example. There are different planning and measurement process. In general, we have an annual planning process, and we have a quarterly planning process where we provide outcome-based objectives. Each department has its one thing, one big objective that is the most important thing for it to achieve. And then in product development, we practice the agile safe methodologies. So we have planning increments and sprints. And in sales, we have pipeline meetings. So it all depends on the domain. Another question, can you talk more about managing outcomes? How do you set outcomes? Yes, so an outcome, for example, let's say a new product manager is hired and he's given a project to define a new piece of functionality. So there are multiple steps in this. Maybe, first of all, there is some market research and competitive analysis, and also learning our own platform really well and talking to people who know the history around it. So there is an initial phase. So maybe a good thing to do as a manager is to say, okay, this is phase one. What is the outcome of this phase? And then tell the new hire that once they feel like they've reached the end of the phase and they have an outcome, to come and tell you what their conclusions are. So that's like managing an outcome, and there can be multiple outcomes. So then maybe the next step after doing this initial research is to come up with an approach. So an outcome for that will be like a blueprint of the solution. So the new hire would present the initial thoughts on the direction of the solution. So there can be multiple outcomes, but the thing is it's an outcome from a process that the new hire is empowered to go and do, and they're responsible for it. They are being empowered to be the best at doing it, and they are not being handheld and taken through this process and monitored at every step of their activity. Are employees to use their own computers? No, employees don't use their own computers. We give them a computer, and it's that's the only computer they can work on. And this computer cannot be used for anything else. It can only be used for work. It needs to be stored in a secure place. Yeah, there are many policies around this. In the hiring process, what is the most important question that you ask? What is the answer you're looking for? I mean, I don't know if there is just one question. There are many questions, but I think in the presentation I talked about understanding the profile, if there is a good fit for work from home. This is important, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is if I talk to the candidate about what kind of company we are, what is our purpose in life, and how we operate. And I need to see that the candidate is understanding this and identifies with it. I need to see that there is a connection on a deeper level. If there isn't this connection on a deeper level with our cause, with our why, with where we're going, then there's a problem. Is there any advice for a new employee working from home? So I've been talking from the management, from the leadership side all along, and there's a question from the employee side. So I just started working from home. What kind of advice can you give me? So my advice is, first of all, be yourself. Try to continue what you're doing in the best possible way. Keep contact with whoever you need to, and don't be shy to ask for help or raise any issues that you have. That's my best advice on this. Another question, have you encouraged employees who struggle with anxiety, mental health around using video and accommodating that, making them feel comfortable? This is a good question. Not everyone is comfortable using video. It's also a cultural thing. In some cultures, it's easier, and in some cultures, it's more difficult. We're not too hard on people. So, I mean, in some meetings, it's really important that everyone turns on their video. So we ask everyone specifically to turn on video. There are other meetings where some people turn on the video and some people don't. I can't say that I'm happy that some people don't turn on their video, but we're not pushing them. What I hope is that over time, they will turn on their video. So it's sort of a nurturing thing that if the leaders always give the right example, then more people will start to follow, and eventually everyone will follow. We're not there yet, but that's what I hope will happen. When communicating one-on-one, like regular questions to a senior on a certain topic, is it still important to use video, or can you use text-based communication, for example? Yeah, if it's something very quick and you just need to tell someone something, yes, you can email, you can text, it's fine. But when it's a discussion, yes, video is important. What do you do with employees who haven't embraced working from home because it's only a temporary situation because of COVID-19? Yeah, I think we don't know how long it's going to last. So I think it's good to talk to people and talk about the uncertainty around it, and that it may take time. And when things are back to normal, the world is not going to be the same world. So many people and organizations are now experiencing work from home. It's not that it's going to bounce back immediately to working in an office. Things will change. Some organization may shift to working partially from home, or more from home, or maybe completely from home. And I think the way to talk about it is that we are in this situation now. Let's make the best of it, and don't think about it as something that it's just temporary maybe, and I'm not going to really give it my best. I think it is important to give it the best chance to succeed, because we don't know how long it's going to take. And in any case, I think that an employee that transitions well to working from home is going to come out of this a better employee than one that didn't. Do you have an organizational phone number? If so, yeah, of course we have. We have a phone number, and we actually have 24/7 phone support. So yes, we've had this for many years. Having an organizational phone number is completely possible. The fact we work from home doesn't mean that we will not have a phone. Yeah. Okay, so that brings me to the end. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. I hope that this was helpful. And most important, be well, stay safe, and I wish all of us that we will weather the storm as fast as possible and with minimal casualties. Take care.